Hello everyone, welcome to an exciting game that was from the tournament that is currently going on, Clutch Chess Showdown. You guys, Clutch Chess basically is a tournament where we have the top players in the world, including Magnus Carlsen, the world champion Gukesh Dommaraju, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, and these players are going to be playing for the next 3 days, so today, tomorrow, and the 29th of October. This is a rapid game, or these games are going to be rapid game, 10 minutes plus 5 seconds, meaning that they will have some time. You're not going to just flag and lose on time, perhaps, or at least they're going to have enough time to play some fantastic chess. And the format is very interesting. The scoring pattern for this tournament is actually very interesting. If you win a game on the first day, you gain 1 point. If you win a game on day 2, you gain 2 points. If you win a game on day 3, you gain 3 points. So what it means is, even if you lose today, you can win tomorrow and overtake somebody that may be leading the tournament today, for example. And even if you lose tomorrow, on the third day, if you can win some clutch 3 points, if you can score 3-pointers on day 3, you can still bounce back and win the tournament. So this is going to be a very exciting tournament. And right from day 1, we already have exciting chess between these two giants, Magnus Carlsen and Gukesh Dommaraju. Gukesh with the white pieces opens with e4. Magnus goes d6 here, the Pierce defense. I like the Pierce defense because this was the opening that won me the national championship in St. Vincent 2 years ago, right? Gukesh continues d4, Magnus develops the knight, Gukesh develops the knight, Magnus goes e5, and Gukesh develops the knight. Knight d7, bishop c4, bishop e7, castles, castles. Standard moves that we've seen in several games. Gukesh goes a4, Magnus goes c6 here, and we have rook to e1. We're getting to the fun part of this game. h6, h3, basically prophylactic moves that we see all the time. Magnus brings his rook to e8, and Gukesh develops the bishop to e3. Magnus takes, Gukesh takes, Magnus retreats the bishop, you see, back all the way to g7, where it supports these pawns. In the future, you may want to advance this pawn, and this bishop will already be defending that pawn. Very typical idea. It is also common for white to bring back this bishop all the way to f1 here. The same idea. Whenever you advance the g pawn, the pawn on h3 will already be defended. And Gukesh takes back his knight here to d2. Magnus attacks the bishop and he retreats the bishop all the way to f1. We'll see why this will be important a little later. Magnus reroutes the knight to g6. Gukesh goes a5, and Magnus develops this bishop to e6. Gukesh plays g3. So if you notice, if this bishop was on e2, for example, instead of f1, then when you play g3 here to control the knight, you don't want this knight coming on any of these squares. You will hang that pawn, which is why it makes a lot of sense to come all the way to f1. These guys know what they're doing. I have blundered this kind of position a lot, so I know. Magnus strikes in the center with d5. Gukesh develops the bishop on this diagonal now, and Magnus develops his bishop to b4. Gukesh immediately goes a6 here, takes, and now you trade everything else. Takes, 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 takes. First you trade off and then pick up the bishop, and we have this position where it is pretty much equal, very slight advantage to white. Gukesh goes c3, immediately kicks the bishop back, and then he chops off the a6 pawn. When you look at this pawn structure, it doesn't look terrible. You're currently attacking those that pawn. So what's Magnus going to do? Magnus defends the pawn tactically. So if you take that pawn, okay, probably trade rooks or something, and then he will win this pawn. But Gukesh decides to defend the pawn, and Magnus pushes his pawn to a5. Gukesh develops the queen, offers a queen trade. Magnus says, nope, I'm not ready for a queen trade. I want to win this game. Magnus goes queen d3. Gukesh brings the knight back. Whenever I have a position that looks like this, and my opponent's queen is sitting somewhere in my territory, I'm looking at a knight that can potentially jump into my position, I begin to panic. But these guys are good for a reason. Magnus brings his rook to a6, and Gukesh immediately takes advantage by going b5. If you take, well, you blunder your rook. Magnus is not going to do that. Magnus swings the rook to e6. This gives me nightmares of positions where I have lost a game because my opponent just starts bringing their pieces to my king side, and maybe I'm busy grabbing pawns on the queen side, for example. Gukesh attacks the queen. You don't want that rook to land on this square because that would be horrible. And Magnus moves the queen to f5, attacking that pawn and also keeping open the fact that the rook can literally come down to e1 at any point. Gukesh takes here, and now he has this passed pawn that can easily become a problem. Magnus grabs a pawn, and Magnus is losing here. Magnus is losing in this position. Gukesh plays the correct move. Well, not really the correct move. He was supposed to bring this queen back first. Yeah, that was, I think, this was what I missed. I had expected a6 because in my head when I was analyzing this game, a6, a7, a8, queen. Oh, who doesn't love a queen? But that was not the correct move. The queen was supposed to come back first, protect the back rank, and then you figure out a way to advance the pawn. But Gukesh first advances the pawn to a6, and the position is back to drawn again. When I was watching this game live, I thought, wait, why even if your rook comes there? I mean, I can still go here, right? Defend the knight. And who is stopping my pawn? I'm still threatening to make a queen. But we'll find out why it is now a draw. Magnus goes rook to e1, and he's just threatening checkmate on that square. So Gukesh finds queen to b5, defending the knight. Ladies and gentlemen, on the live broadcast of this game, David Howell was like, the only move to keep the game in the balance, he wasn't sure if Magnus could find this. Look at this beautiful move. He found this move in 20 seconds, I think, or 20 something seconds. Bishop c5. If you take with the queen, well, you get checkmated. If you take with the bishop, what if you take with the bishop? I know myself, in a blitz or rapid game, I might take with the bishop. But if you take with the bishop, you lose control of the e5 square, and that knight will land on e5. And it's coming. Who is going to stop the knight from landing on f3 here? If you bring the queen back, well, I don't even know how you're going to bring the queen back. There's literally no hope in this position. Maybe you go with the rook. I don't know. How do you bring the queen back? How do you defend mate in this position? It's going to be very, very difficult to play. Maybe you're going to go f4 and try to run with your king. Probably not going to happen, right? So, of course, Gukesh knew he could not take the bishop, and he finds the only move that keeps the game going, queen to d3 here, and Magnus chops off the bishop. Gukesh takes, and Magnus moves his rook to a1. Magnus moves the rook to a1. What do you play in this position if you are Gukesh? What do you play? The computer says you can play a bunch of things. You can play your rook to b2. You can play your queen to e2. Basically saying I'll keep the queen here to keep an eye on the knight. Rook b2, queen e2 can be played in this position. The world champion played the move rook to d1. And in one move, the game is lost. Because if Magnus Carlsen finds the one move to win the game, what move will you play in this position? Imagine you are the world #1 player on earth. I guess the same thing. What move do you play in this position? When I saw this move, I thought it was natural. Just trade off the rooks and good luck stopping the a pawn. What did Gukesh Dommaraju miss? The move is knight to h4. I have not seen anything this amazing in my life. Knight h4. If you take the knight, check, and I win the rook and win the game. If you take the rook, checkmate. So that was the best move in the position. Knight to h4. But in the game, Magnus Carlsen played knight to f4. What is the difference? You are attacking the queen. You're threatening checkmate. So what's the best move here? You needed to find knight to e3. But in this position, the world champion, Gukesh Dommaraju, felt like there was nothing he could do any longer. And he resigned the game. This is the classic Magnus Carlsen effect. If you remember, the same thing happened to Hikaru, where Magnus played a move and Magnus was actually completely lost, and Hikaru Nakamura resigned the game. This reminds me of that game. Gukesh Dommaraju resigned the game in this position, and Magnus Carlsen won the game in a completely equal position. If Gukesh had played knight f3 here, this position is a complete draw. I hope you enjoyed this game. If you have any games you like me to show, you like me to take a look at, please let me know in the comments. You can say #game and I'm going to check out your game. You can send it in the Discord as well. I will be checking out all of those games. I will be discussing them. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you guys later. Please subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.